what quantum actually is, because it comes from the inside, and the quantum leaps that you can make and the miracles all come from spirit. That's the only thing that makes this quantum reality happen.
Very nice, very nice. I think Dr. Uma wants to add something for us.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch a little bit about mental health issues. And I'm interpreting energy in terms of vitality. Sometimes we have a higher level of vitality, and at other times we don't. And that could be attributed to our emotional health. And when I was studying psychiatry, I was very much disappointed because all the books talk about abnormalities and pathological conditions of health. And I asked my professor, can you define mental health? And he couldn't. So that led me to an interest in positive mental health. And I would like to bring the attention of the audience to a very good work done by Abraham Maslow, a transpersonal psychologist, which is very popular in some countries in the West, where he has brought in the dimension of positive mental health. So I think all of us have scope to improve our mental health. And one point I'd like to mention, why we feel low energy when negative emotions are dominating the mind, we feel somewhat a low vitality. And one solution Maslow has given, which appeals to me, and I've used it in therapy. He says, we have to finally, psychology or health in a way is about actualizing our potential. At physical level, through yoga and dance, we can improve our health. Emotional health, that can improve if we work on our potential. And this is where the therapist is very useful. I agree with Patrick that we need to work on ourselves. I have found healing is not just through words, it's much more non-verbal. And how much work we have done on ourselves is going to be transmitted. And if the therapist can look with a very loving perception, not on the defects or deficiencies in the patient or client, but more on the positive, how to tap that process of self-actualization, I think could help the therapist and the client to attain better levels of mental health and vitality.
Brilliant, brilliant, Dr. Uma. Because I share the same thoughts with you. I was studying at one of the premier institutes in Bangalore called the NIMHANS, which is the National Institute of Mental Health. And there was no definition of mental health. There were only definitions of mental ill health. And I think the esteemed panelist today has only spoken of good health, wellness, and how we can actually begin with our own selves and then take it forward as healings to others. I think summarizing a lot of how we can promote it, learning from the panelists, is one, that maybe we can have gadgets and techniques which are so user-friendly, like what she said as well, that we could actually have them all over the house and expose it from the childhood to the youth, to, of course, when we have concerns or when we generally want more well-being. Going on to the fact that the training programs need to be taken on further, and we are very happy to have the Quantum University with us now in India and in Bangalore, and training people at large to become quantum energy medicine physicians, as well as training physicians and medical practitioners to become, or at least be in sync with energy medicine, which was, I think, the next forum of discussion as to how can we bring this integration, or how can we bring the medical practitioners in a comfort zone to be in sync with energy medicine and not to think of it as a threat to them or as a, as we were discussing, some kind of a magic or something to do with just faith healing. So Dr. Amit, can we start with you on this, please?
What is the question?
The question is, how can we integrate energy medicine with the medical
Mental.
practice of, or in times of today?
Well, the integration has to happen through consciousness, obviously. So a primary thing for the people of the world is to really hear, and here's the scary part, because it sounds like, oh my God, I have to understand physics. But you know, the point is that the physics part has to be worked out. And the whole way of this divided way of looking at things has come from physics. So in order to integrate, we have to go back to physics. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, however much we desire it. The whole idea of separating matter from the spirit came from Mr. Newton, because he successfully constructed a mechanics that explains the behavior of matter so completely that people became convinced that that is it. All we need to understand is the mechanics of matter, and we'll have it. And people still believe it. A very large number of academicians, academic people, including those of India, surprisingly. I mean, Western people discovered this science, so for them, I forgive. But for Indians to be so quickly sold into this very myopic metaphysics, I cannot understand in the life of me how that happened, but it has happened. I have been banished myself from the University of Delhi or any other Indian university from appearing in any academic.
So how do you, sir, see us bringing the comfort zone back and
So
reducing this limitation?
Coming back to it, so what happens then, what we have to do is to really learn quantum physics a little bit, just the introduction part of it, what it implies. It implies absolutely with certainty, and experiments back it up, that consciousness is the ground of being. You don't have to go any further than the basic quantum physics. That objects are waves of possibility. The rest of it is completely logical, experimentally verified, but these waves of possibility roam around in a domain of reality which is one thing, connected by non-locality, instantly. Who can we connect with instantly? Only with ourselves. So that oneness that mystics talk about, religions talk about, that oneness is now scientific discovery. If this fits in, then it's just a step from it to realize that in that oneness, we have possibilities of matter and possibilities of mind, possibilities of vital and possibilities of supramental. As soon as you have realized it, integration is already there. It's automatic. What's the problem with it? It's all arising from consciousness. Once we realize it, we have to recognize that, yes, Dr. Uma is correct, yes, Irina is correct. We have to do it together. We cannot separate out the vital energies from matter, from mind, from the supramental. It's all together. And then we start integrating. So for me, it's all very simple. It starts with changing your worldview. Concentrate on that. If you understand it, pass it on. Like Don said, pass it on. Immediately to your friend, to your neighbors, pass it on. This is the job we have to do. This is what I call quantum activism. Understand it and pass it on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a question with many aspects. First of all, we have to realize that in the world of medicine, the same percentage of people interested in alternative medicine or energy medicine is the same. You know, if you have 10%, 20% in the population, the same ratio is in medicine. You have a lot of doctors, nurses that do meditation, that are open at the same thing, but still there is a resistance to the changement. You have to realize that it's a paradigm shift. And when we do a paradigm shift, there is a lot of interests that are connect with it. You know, when we start to change our view of the world, then and changing the view of the world, then we open the door to other possibility of healing. There is a threat to pharmaceutics and surgery. So there is a lot of resistance. And so I was, some argument was to say, when this medicine becomes scientific, then it would be accepted by everybody. Not necessarily, because the resistance is still there. or if you witness that it's working, you know, people give testimonial and you have spontaneous healing, even the doctor will deny. They will all the time find a reason that, you know, oh yeah, there is it's spontaneous healing, it's random, and so on. They all the time try to rationalize. So think about the Berlin Wall. You know, one day it's there and one day it's not there anymore. So what has made that happen? Change in consciousness. There was something that, you know, little by little, doing what Dr. Amit Goswami said, you know, you see your testimony, and then you meditate, as we said. 1% of the population meditate can change the awareness, the collective awareness. So this is also very important. So one day, the Berlin Wall will fall because we have done all these action. And then the necessity, and this is where we are now, make the fact that you don't have the choice anymore. And this is where is healthcare now. Healthcare in a rich or poor country is in crisis. And it's like, you know, the energy crisis, you know, it's like, hey, wake up, you know, we cannot just work with petrol. We have to find other source of energy, because if we all try to get our energy from there, it's a third world, you know, everybody's fighting for this fuel. And what's happened in the last decade, you know, other source of energy came, wind and solar, and so necessity. It's like we don't have the choice anymore. It's like, you know, we face a situation that, you know what, we cannot afford anymore the way healthcare or our rationale of thinking works anymore, and then the Berlin Wall fall.
Thank you so much. And I think Jane next to me has a few thoughts to share, and I'll come back to you.
When I was working, can you hear me? Yeah. When I was working as a kinesiologist, I had a very simple approach. When doctors or scientists poo-hooed what I was doing and said it was unscientific or rubbish, I would say, come and lie on my couch for 1 hour, and when you get off the couch, you will have diarrhea and vomiting. If you think that's coincidence, we can wait until the diarrhea and vomiting's gone, and then you can come and lie on my couch again, and I will give you diarrhea and vomiting. And we can do that as many times as you need till you're convinced that what I did gave you diarrhea and vomiting. And the reason I did it this way is because occasionally I'd persuade a scientist or doctor to lie on the couch, and I would do some treatment for them. But afterwards, they would always either deny they felt any different, or say, oh, well, I would have felt different anyway. You know, it's an hour later, so I would have felt different. But I found that when I said this to them, interestingly, none of them ever took me up on it. And I think what it shows, what I was doing was putting them in touch with the fact that they're not 100% certain that I'm wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was very, very well validated.
I had a little bit different approach, so I'll share that. What we did, one of the things, if you're practicing out there right now in a vacuum, which means you're doing wonderful work but nobody knows you're doing it, what we did, and this is something I teach at the university to all the practitioners who take my course, when you're working with somebody, get the names of all the doctors that you would like to have referring to you, and have your patients write letters to them. We did that. We had 74 referring medical physicians to our practice. They kept my practice filled. And they were all not into what we were doing at first, but when they started hearing about results from their patients, one at a time, you change their mind. But if you're practicing in a vacuum, meaning you're doing great work but nobody's telling anybody about it, those doctors need to know when their patient comes back and they no longer have the illnesses they had before, and they don't tell them either, because the doctor is God. You know, they're not going to say anything to them. So what we did is we got permission to actually send letters each month to their doctors just to keep them up to date on what was going on. Hey, we got them on an herbal supplement this month. This is what they're experiencing, or whatever you're doing. They went through a detox bath this month. They found out that they had heavy metals in their body. She's saying that she's not as in much pain. You just started, and you don't do it big. It's not a big sales letter. We never sold the doctors. We gave them facts. Now, in America, I don't know what it's like here. In America, that doctor has to read that patient letter and has to put it in their file. So they don't have to read marketing information. But so that's one key, and I'm more of a practical guy, though. They'll kind of do that. I don't know if I want to give them diarrhea. Some of them I did. But, you know, I think that if you start sharing your messages, there's miracles going on in every one of your offices. And the world needs to know about it. So go ahead and share those. Don't be scared.
Yes, I think Dr. Paul also mentioned that. Tell your clients, tell your patients to share their experiences with their doctors, with their practitioners. And I think you've already got the brochure, the banner says 900, but your slide said 1,100 doctors already with you in this integrated approach. Thank you, Dr. Porter. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm the different one. I have a totally different perspective on this. I know a lot of people harp on the failure of the medical system and the medical doctors, the pharmaceutical industry. And I do that, I have my share of that as well. But I have to tell you that they are fantastic at what they do. In terms of trauma and emergency, if I have an accident, I want the best well-trained doctor, the best trained surgeon, and the best pharmaceuticals to get through that situation and get back to normalcy. That being said, I don't think they know much about health, but they do know about emergency. So my perspective is a little bit different. You know, we observed this when we first started going to Asia. In America, when you're in an airport and American parents have children, I've actually seen parents with a leash on their children, like a dog, dragging them along because they don't want them to get lost. Well, in Asia, it's very different. The parents are there, and the child is around them, and when they're ready to go, they just take off and they leave